Real talk with Jenny Jetson. What do you think? Real talk with Jenny Jetson. That might be an interesting intro, right? Okay, so I'm just trying to do a little bit more real talk instead of getting prepared. By the time I put on like makeup and hair, I'm exhausted and then I don't want to do anything. So I'm just going to start being a little bit more me and not trying to worry about being perfect because that sucks anyway. Um, so, yeah, this is what I look like. I use glasses, one, so I can see, and two, to hide my eyes, but I don't have to wear makeup then. But look at the glare. That's not fun to look at. But if you're listening to me, you don't care. How are you? It's Jenny Jetson. I am doing it Veronica Weichel style in my closet. Look at me. Here I am, Veronica Weichel. Um, that's kind of funny. So I just wanted to start recording some things that I've been thinking about as I've kind of started to do some of the blogging. And I realize that I'm playing with my hair a lot, so I'll work on that. What else? Um, I just wanted to start recording a lot more content and figure out what to do with it at some point later. So this is what I'm going to do. A few things are on my mind right now. Let's see. One of them is, let's see, my friend Jenny Jetson. Jenny. So I'm interested in having doing a live chat with my friend Jen Wesselman. She's amazing. She's awesome. She's like this, spiritual kind of guru, mama figure. She comes from a long line of what I think they would kind of be known as mountain people healers, like witch doctors in the hills of Oregon. She comes from a long line of kind of village doctor e people, and she definitely has kind of a lot of fun woo-woo-ness about her, but she's also awesome and amazing, and was with me. She was the gal in the bathtub. She was the gal in the bathtub. So we've been going through our recovery process of the event that happened a few years ago to us in parallel, but very different experiences. And when it comes to trauma surviving and all of the discovery and the research that I've done and the work to figure out how to get myself up and running again, work in progress still, but through a lot of the work that I did, um, I always had a lot of concern about Jen. And so this is something, so this episode is going to be dedicated to people who witnessed other people's trauma and the effect that that has. One of the problems I think in this country, or in the world maybe, or just as humans, one of our flaws as humans, that would probably be the best way to talk about it. One of the flaws with humans is that we don't necessarily talk about our post trauma recovery, especially when it has to do with gun violence. Thing about gun violence, I mentioned it before, is it happens to you, and then you kind of suffer in silence with the recovery period, because it's saying the word gun violence, right? How does that make you feel? It's like, ooh, I want to get away from it. I'm uncomfortable, but I don't know why. It's like, I'm going to have political people yell at me, and second amendments and scary people with huge guns, and but it makes all of that kind of it attaches to those two words. And for me anyway, that's how it shows up. And it's difficult to really engage people in deep, meaningful conversations once they find out what your trauma is. I mean, everybody is going to experience, bad things happen to all of us, right? But I think it's what you decide to do afterwards that really makes the biggest difference. And I think that's what I've really been focused on. And I'd like to help people who want my opinion, or, I'm going to talk about what I did, and what I think might be work for other people based on what stage in the healing process that you're in. So a couple things that I want to address are, I want to get Jenny on the phone at some point so that we can talk about what it's like to be the witness of somebody else's trauma and what that does to the aftermath of your ability to heal or not heal. So she's texting me right now because I wanted to see if she could jump on and record to me. But she is going to a hair appointment in Texas. Yay! So maybe I'm going to ask her to come on after she gets her hair done. So I'm going to silence her. Mwah. Jenny, I'll see you. Let's see, she can do a call real quick too. So what I wanted to talk about are a few things quickly. I wanted to talk about all of the things that really helped me along the way. I wanted to talk about some of those things with Jenny. One of the things that I had her do, or I treated her, is there's a psychic medium in San Francisco that I've gone to only twice now. I've never been kind of big into it. I've gone to a few readings really for the jokes and for the stories that I could tell about them, which are just fabulous, by the way. So I've gone to this one individual twice. His name is Felix. If you're interested in his contact information, please message me and I will tell you everything about him. And you can see everybody's glowing recommendations and not my own. But I took Jenny. I took Jenny to this guy as a gift and a thank you. When she came over the day of the shooting, and happened to be in the in my house during this, so she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, really. She was over and we were having happy hour in the backyard because she had just had 3 losses, only 2 that I can remember. Oh no, yeah, anyway, she'd had multiple losses. She had lost her brother suddenly. He was on an operating room table in Arizona. It was a planned surgery, but there was no need to think that his life was in danger. Anyway, the hospital gave him the wrong medicine during the surgery, so it killed him on the table. And then her daughter, her granddaughter, her new baby's granddaughter, her new baby granddaughter's father of her youngest granddaughter, that's right, died suddenly. I think he was in a car accident. I think he was in a car accident. Um, and one other thing happened, and I don't remember what, but she just had a couple of really major things happen. And she'd been on the road traveling, I think, and she just was selling and had to pack up her house in Seattle, and they were moving down to California permanently. So, she had a ton going on, and she came over to my house that afternoon to decompress. She came over that afternoon to decompress and share her stories. Her now husband Tom was coming over after work, and we were just going to have a great time in my backyard. It was a beautiful day, and we enjoy each other's company. So anyway, so she was with me, and was in the bathtub. So I'd love to share her story. Um, and we can talk about that because I think that I have a real duty to her in my mind to make sure that she gets the recognition that she deserves as a victim, a survivor of this trauma, who only has the emotional and mental, visual, right, sound body experience. I guess what I'm trying to say is she didn't get shot. She didn't get shot a couple times. And very early on in the recovery process, it was very, very important for me that Jenny get a voice in this, that she's not lost, because she had to witness me get killed. Or almost get killed. She had to witness me, bleeding on the floor, making my goodbye videos, my this is who did it videos on the floor, thinking my lungs are filling with blood, and then watching a guy try to break through. He broke down the door. The door was stopped by a drawer like this that let's see. Yeah, a drawer like this that I put a door, and then the door opened against it. So pulling out a drawer like this saved our lives. And then when he was kind of had his hand in here and was doing kind of one of these. And so, what saved us is I literally like plugged my hole and held onto this. And then, he eventually gave up and I tried to shoot him with pepper spray. But she had to watch all this. I mean, she was screaming, he's trying to get in, he's trying to get in. That's what kind of snapped me into when, after I was shot in the chest and, try not to die, the bullets stopped coming through the door. And, dust starts to settle because, you close your eyes because, well, you're terrified, but then, all the debris is flying all over the place. Um, and so I remember Jen saying, he's trying to get in, he's trying to get in, screaming on the phone. And I realized, oh, she means like right now, which is why I looked over and he broke the door down, was trying to close the drawer. So she had to see all of that. And early on, it sucks being on crutches. It's just terrible. So I had, let's see, I'll show you. Let me see if I can show you without showing you too much. Almost not too much. So, okay, let's see. Maybe this is a really bad idea. Okay, maybe this. Okay, so can you see this? So this is where the bullet went in. It nicked me here a little bit, just as a scab, but the bullet went in my knee here. And what it did is it shattered the top of the tibia plateau, the top of your big bone in your leg. Let's see, top of this big bone in your leg here. And so what they had to do, so my leg could no longer support the weight of my body. I'm 5'8". And so what they did here, I don't know if you can see the scar. It looks like a shark bite. It starts here and goes all the way down to here. And there's a 6-inch steel plate that is drilled with 3 screws into my bone until it healed enough. Well, it's healed now, at least the bone, but I needed that in order for the bones to fuse and for me to be able to support the weight of my body. When the bullet hit this bone, it split in two and continued to travel all the way down through my calf. And the bullet stopped in here somewhere. And then I have another scar right here, where they extracted the second bullet. I had a second knee operation to clean it up because they really didn't do which is a scar right here. And here I had orthopedic surgeon, orthoscopic surgery from Dr. King, who is a fabulous sports orthopedic at Palo Alto Medical Foundation in Palo Alto. He's fabulous. He looks like Joe Namath. Ladies, I'm just saying, I keep seeing this doctor. He's sweet, he's gorgeous, he's smart, he's shy. His wall is filled with athletes from all over, from different age ranges and sports. He does Columbine for the Raiders. He is the surgeon for all of the sports teams in the Bay Area. So, football, rugby, soccer, colleges. Anyway, he's fabulous. I just lost my train of thought, but he's great. And so that's a little bit about my knee, and being on crutches really, really sucks. So back to that, being on crutches sucks. And that's why I had to be on them, is because of this knee operation. But I have to say that I'm lucky and grateful that I have my life. It's a blessing that I'm survived. It was an absolute miracle. And I'm compelled to share my story with other people and talk about it. If I can talk about this story for the rest of my life and help people, then not only will the event, I hate to say, will have been worth it, but my life will have been spared for a reason. And I can die knowing that I've done some good. And my life, and the fact that I'm still here, that I was spared, that I did something with it. So, and that is part of my story. It's like, you're here for a reason. If you're, for all of the victims of trauma or the witnesses of trauma, if you were involved in an incident and you survived and you have guilt over it, we need to clean that up for you, because you are here for a reason. I believe that my life did not end that day for a reason. If I had died, then that would be tragic, and nobody would be learning about my story or how awesome I am as a person. Um, and my daughter wouldn't have a mom, and it would be a burden on my family, and that would suck. But nobody is going to miss me, right? Nobody's going to miss us when we're gone. So we can be remembered, but I feel that if you went through something horrific, that your story about it is the one, it's the only thing that is uniquely yours in the world. And people need to hear about this because we don't talk about this enough, transparently, from a trauma survival standpoint. And I think that my surviving of this event and everything that I've learned about myself, the way that I behaved through it and after, is a huge testament to who I am as a human being. And it is the proudest thing that I have done in my life. And to this day, I feel like a superhero. And I want other survivors, other people who have gone through trauma, to feel the exact same way I do, because it is a powerful, amazing feeling, and people are inspired by it. We need to get these stories out. I want to help people do it. And so, what I want to try and cover for a little bit is the importance of people who have trauma and don't have physical, um, wounds for it, and those who do. And so, what I'm talking to is, if you were the witness of any kind of mass shooting, if you didn't get shot, if you were, if you didn't get nicked, if you didn't need major medical attention, if you didn't need so much as a band aid, and you were just sent home, um, right? You wake up the next day with everything in your head and nothing to show for it. I think that's really, really difficult. And I think those individuals need to talk about it the most because they don't get an opportunity to. They're not forced to, almost, right? Um, and so, yeah, I'm on crutches and it's hard to get around, and everybody's asking me why, and no one's really good at it, right? Most people, in my experience, come up to me or came up to me, asked me about me being on crutches so that they could tell me their I was, once on crutches story. Following me? And it was usually, somebody that had had a torn ACL and, wanted to talk about their, tennis injury. Hmm, Nothing like, saying, gunshot wound, to kind of stop them in their tracks, right? They're like, oof. It's really kind of a funny reaction. I would get a kick out of doing that. But it forced me to learn how to quickly tell my story to people in a way that satisfied the both of us. Sometimes it would be a fast interaction, right? Sometimes it would be, I would be way more generous in how I would land this, you know, bomb in somebody's lap of, you have no idea what you just asked, or, right? So it's be careful what you ask people. I think that's why individuals are afraid to ask, but it's helpful for people to ask about it only if it forces you how to figure out what to say about it. And I think that there's a way that you can control the narrative. You're going to need to process a narrative in your brain in order to have conversations with people where you can both leave a conversation satisfied to some extent. And I think that people who don't have the physical manifestations are walking around with all of this in their head, and they have to work it out on their own, right? In other ways. And I think that, you know, Jen's pain, and she's amazing and awesome and wonderful, and helps people, kind of in their spiritual sense. She's very in tune with herself. She's very in the moment. She's amazing that way. Um, and so I know that she's done a great job healing herself, and will have a lot to offer people in that regard. But from a legal standpoint, right? From a liability standpoint, I think from a healing standpoint, I want to make sure that she really, and people like her, really are able to, I don't know, get the credit that they deserve for having witnessed something. Because the thing about the thing about gun violence in particular is there's so many victims, right? It's not, unless you're in, the business where you're also carrying a gun, right? It's not something that you're ready and prepared for. And people witness it all the time. I mean, think about all the children in this country who have been involved in gun violence while they were at school, who didn't get shot and have no limelight, no one's interviewing them. They're silently suffering alone. And I think that, from a mental health aspect, my guess would be it might be a little bit more difficult for them because, I can talk about my knee all the time, and I do because it hurts and I have rehab and it doesn't work yet. And right, I'm still trying to walk without pain, and strengthen it and learn my limitations. It's a lot to do, but it keeps me at the forefront of my own recovery, mentally, physically, spiritually, right? Is my leg going to work? What are my activities going to be? Who's the new me? Right? Am I going to be able to walk far distances? Am I ever going to be able to run? I'm going to try and get into road biking to get some exercise, right? Am I going to be able to stand up on the bike? What's my strength level going to be? I'm constantly thinking about it because I have this physical manifestation. So I'm always in check. My identity is always, right? But if you don't have that to focus on, I could see how it would be a dark road to be in, to force yourself to heal. And one of the things that I thought might be very helpful to trauma survivors is, so the sense of spirituality, I think, is very important. And how you address and talk about that to people is a touchy subject. You've got, especially, again, when you're talking about gun violence, talking about spirituality and what that means is another hotbed of a political subject. But I'm going to try and address it in a way that I think works for everybody involved, and it's important to say none the least. So I'm just going to go for it and say it. If I can remember, this is why note cards are important, but when I start talking, I never look at them anyway. So I'm just trying to record and see what happens. Maybe we'll edit it later. Anyway, so I think that a sense of spirituality has very much helped me through this traumatic experience. But I know that spirit and spirituality and a sense of a greater power and purpose, and your inner light, your inner spirit, your God, your religion, if we can think about all of those things as kind of the same thing, right? And whatever that means to you, I think it's helpful to play in that space a little bit. So just bear with me. One of the things that helped me, and I'm wondering if Jen, in the aftermath of it, if she thinks the same thing, but one time I went to a medium. Back to that. He was great. And I went with two other women. One very much believed in the spirit world and lived her life. She was an Irish lady, Irish Anne. Oh my gosh. 3 clovers, 2 diamonds. That's a really bad Irish accent, but she was like this, she was this great Irish lady from Ireland with an accent who was into the spirit world. Like, she went to psychics all the time. She actually started like a Yahoo page and product page. I think it was called Spiritual Warriors. She was developing it in India, and she would live her life by psychics and all of that psychic realms and reading and this, and she was always going to them, talking to them and assessing them and putting them on her website and all this stuff. And I was like, this lady is nuts. I mean, come on. And so she would get us to go to these things. So the way that she got me, so I went to two things with Anne, and the way she got me is I would only have to pay a third of the price. I could watch two other people do it, and then if I wanted to dip my toe in or say something, I could, or if they were going to say something to me, I would just kind of be like, okay, let's just kind of see what happens. So I went with her to this medium, and Felix is really good at talking to the dead. They're talking to the dead, speaking to the dead. I think that's called a medium, but that's what comes through him when you're in the same room with him. There's some TV shows, if you've been to one, you know what I'm talking about. And I think maybe having him on with, I don't know how he is over the phone. I don't know if he gets that same vibration. So when you're in the same room with him, he still wants to give you, he wants to hold your car keys, or, a wedding ring or a watch, something that has a lot of your mojo attached to it. So I don't know if he would be good over video and the phone, but I think it's a really good way to open people up to a sense of a greater spirit and a greater power in the world. If you're skeptical, it might help you think about, it will help you deal with a lot of the guilt that you have. If you feel like you need to ask questions or talk to someone um, who is no longer with us. I know that sounds crazy, even coming out of my mouth. I know how it sounds, because I was skeptical too. But it was more powerful for me to watch other people have this experience than it was for me when I was in the same room with it. So, crazy Anne, Irish Anne, her father died. And he was the mayor of whatever this small little village was in Ireland, where they all work hard and talk a lot. uh, but he was the king of this, right? Always in the pub. He was like the mayor, if not literally the mayor, but he was the life of the party. He was one of the biggest characters in town, with all of the jokes and all of the friends and all of the fun and larger than life character. And I watched this man, who the medium, of course, had no idea who any of us were or any of this. There was like, a first name, and that was it when you reserved. Anyway, I saw this person walk in the room, her father walk in the room, and start having a conversation and control the whole thing, because that's what he did in life. And it gave Anne and me a great sense of calm, to know that to be able to be and touch to interact with the world beyond the one that we know today, the sense of spirit, the sense of who another person is that continues to live on, to be able to briefly interact with that is quite a beautiful and powerful gift to be able to give a person, and to be able to receive and witness. And so I gave this gift to Jen when her people passed, thinking, because her daughter is the one who had the baby. It went through a lot with this individual before they died. And so she, I think, was probably on the brink for a long time of harming herself. She had 3 kids at the time. And so having even her mom go in and talk to this medium, I thought was an interesting way to be able to maybe get some answers, or at least deal with some of that guilt or pain or fear, to be able to let go and move on. So I'd be interested in talking to Felix, maybe interviewing him on this. I don't know if he could help any people that are seriously suffering with PTSD, or survivor's guilt and remorse. But I think that having a session where he, could potentially tap into some of that for people, it might be helpful. It might be helpful for people to really realize that, I survived this for a reason, and I need to tell my story of how I'm getting through this. And I think that if we put our trauma survival ship on our resumes of life and work, like an Olympic athlete gets a gold medal, I think um, I think people will get a little bit of credit where they deserve for attending to this area of their life, because it is like training for something. It is. It takes as much work. I've ran multiple marathons. I'll say that. I've always been an athlete. I've run lots of half marathons. I've run my whole life. I ran so much I had surgery in both feet. And then I got into competitive kickboxing where I worked out way too much, and now I get surgery on this foot. I've always been a very competitively focused. That was a way that would, quiet my mind from a meditative state. But I can't do that anymore. So I have to find ways to bob and adjust to be able to quiet my mind and give my brain some rest, right? Meditation, things of that nature. I'm rambling a little bit here, but people need to be able to talk about their trauma, talk about getting over their trauma more in order to help people. So if you have a horrific story right now that you feel comfortable enough talking about, or if you want to put it into words, I would love to help you figure out how to do that so that you can have conversations on the quick and ready and the fly in the grocery store with people that you like, for people that are assholes that you want to shut down, um, for how to talk about it in the workplace, how to talk about it in life. But if you have an event, if you were part of a mass shooting, if you have an event with physical wounds, if we can talk about it in a way that helps open up people that don't have those physical wounds, I think it's going to help, especially, the people who are getting beaten at home, women who were raped in particular. Um, but those wounds that we get, that where you don't really see it when you walk around on a day-to-day basis, and you don't have an event that you feel um, good about sharing, right? Uh, we have to get over that. I think we should all be proud of getting over our traumas. It's who we are. It's our identity moving forward. I spoke to this woman. I'd love to have her on. She was kidnapped, raped, shot in the head, left for dead, survived, right? She survived. She has, you can tell, right? It's in her face. I think her eyes are off center. I don't know what kind of speech, but she is positive and alive. And, I think that somebody who goes through something like that, that is able, willing to talk about that, has an amazing sense of spirit and is an inspiration to others, which is what I would like to spend my life being. And I would like to bring to the forefront other people who have figured out how to forgive and love beyond what it is that they experience. I think that, and we're going to find these people in all parts of society. I think prisoners who are coming out of prison, that's a population that we certainly need to focus on and supporting when they come out. Many, many ways. There are people who come out and they've done an amazing job of healing themselves. And I think that those people, again, there's a DNA that you're going to find in all of the people who go through traumatic experiences and have figured out how to live positive, productive, hopeful lives after whatever it is that they went through. And when you go to therapy early in, everyone will talk about the 5 stages of grief, which is a very dark place to go. And what I'm interested in developing is, what are the 5 stages of life, we'll call it, the 5 stages of trauma recovery, that all therapists and survivors need to make sure that they're checking each of these boxes, right? And doing things to nurture and become a whole human being again. And spirituality is a big piece of that. And forgiveness is a big piece of that. And so that's what I want to explore in the podcasts, is this forgiveness piece, and how we can attach that in a non-threatening way to sense of spirit, because they're connected. And I'd like to to help you do that. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate the time. I look forward to having Jenny Wesselman on, former Jenny Coleman. She's fabulous. I've already reached out to Felix. I'm going to see if he is interested in having a session with us. I don't know if we can do something live and record it, but if you are a struggling person with survivor's guilt, no matter what, even if you're a soldier who feels tremendously guilty because you had to kill a lot of people, and realize now that you didn't want to do that and you've got a lot of guilt about it, I would like to see if maybe Felix can help that category of people, and if you'd be willing to go through that with him somehow and we could record it. I think that maybe we can reach a lot of the soldiers that aren't being healed like they need to be after serving our country, because it's not their fault and they survived for a reason. And it's not to drink themselves and overdose and be cast off of society. We need to help them. And I think what we're doing in the medical field and industry to support PTSD survivors, hi Bruce, isn't working. And I'd like to address that too. I have a long list, but I've got the rest of my life to tackle all of these things. So thank you for listening. Um, Spirit, forgiveness, trauma, we're going to talk about it all. I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Jenna Jetson!